What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for clicking on this week's video. Today I'm back in the shop and I'm working on the 79 Chevy K10 build. This project we just started here on the channel. The last time you saw this truck, it was actual truck. I winched it into the garage. We pulled the bed off using my cherry picker and a little wooden contraption that I built. Then we jumped up front. I pulled the hood, the fenders off, pulled the whole front clip off the truck. And then I showed you guys how I removed these cabs using a cherry picker and another little wooden contraption that I put together. And we got the frame down with just the motor and the trans sitting on it. But as you can see, I've done a little bit of work without you guys. I went ahead and pulled the motor and the transmission out yesterday because this thing's kind of snowballing on me, to be honest. I keep telling myself, well, if I'm gonna go that far, I might as well do this. And then if I'm gonna do that, I might as well do this. And it's turned into a full restoration project instead of an overhaul. But my goal is to get as much stuff off this frame as possible. I wanna wire wheel this whole frame, rust converted. It's got surface rust, nothing major, but I wanna revert all this rust, get the frame painted, and then kind of build this truck back from the ground up. But today's video is gonna be more about the motor. I really don't know what I have. And I mean, I know I've got a 350 motor here, but when you buy a vehicle, and a lot of you guys who have been following this project are commenting and telling me, hey, I'm fixing to start a project, or I've been thinking about starting a project. I know where an old truck is, or something like that. And I kind of want to show you my process of identifying what I've got, tearing this motor down some, and kind of showing you guys how I figure out what I need to buy for these motors to fix them up. I want to show you guys how you can verify if the motor is actually the factory motor out of your vehicle and what is in it. So we're gonna crack this thing open today. I'm also looking to see if this is a 2-bolt main or a 4-bolt main. Let's tear into it today. First, I'll grab you guys, I'll show you what to look for, how to kind of run these numbers on these blocks, what they mean, and how you can identify kind of what you got. So here's what I know and kind of what I look for to verify that this motor did in fact come out of this truck. Now, y'all don't kill me, other mechanics, in the comments if I mess up. It's been a long time since I've done something like this, but I'm gonna try to quickly explain what I do. When you pull the motor, the first thing you look at is the block number back here on the back. Mine is 3970010. If you plug that into the old Google on the interweb, you can find out the year range. Now, that number is not gonna say, yes, that motor came out of that truck. What this number tells you is a wide range of dates and models that this block was put in. So when you put that number in, it'll show you it was put in vehicles from 68 to 79, and it was in the K10s, it was in the C10s, it was in the Camaros. So all it does is tell you a wide range. It also says that this block can be a 327, a 350, a 2-bolt main 350, or a 4-bolt. The next thing you do is you come over to the passenger side on the block and see that shiny, I'm trying to show you guys, there's a shiny part here. I took a wire brush and kind of brushed it down. There's usually numbers stamped into the block. They're like literally just stamped in place and you can read them. They're usually covered up and you got to clean them. I can see that there used to be numbers there, but they're gone. But what that tells me, them being gone, is that this motor definitely was rebuilt, because what happens when they resurface these blocks, it kind of deletes that old number there that's stamped into the block, because the machine shop has to mate the heads to the block, and when they resurface them, it takes just enough material off to delete it. And you can see that there's reminiscences of a old stamp there, but you can't read it anymore. But if that stamp was there, what that stamp would tell me is the date that this, or the month that this motor was built, the factory that it was built in. Just by using the date and the factory, you can look back at those factories and see, okay, this was built this year of this month. What vehicles were they building at that factory that year and that month? And odds are you can dial it in and know exactly if this is the factory motor. Now, to find out whether or not I've got the stroker kit in this motor, we're just gonna have to flip it upside down, drop the oil pan, and look. And I'm gonna do that anyway. We're tearing this thing apart. And there we'll also be able to find out if this is a 2-bolt main or a 4-bolt main. I'm hoping we get a good surprise there. I've actually had a few good surprises so far taking this truck apart. Not to mention all the Edelbrock stuff we got. I think I'll be able to clean up most of this stuff, like the intake. I'm gonna media blast it, clean it out. I think it'll be a good upgrade that I won't have to buy. The transmission and stuff, it had a bunch of new components on it. It even looks like the transfer case has been overhauled within the last couple of years. So if so, we're gonna look out there. So hopefully we find some more surprises when we flip this thing over. So I'm gonna snatch off as much as I can, drain the fluids out, and then I'll catch back up with you guys. We're gonna flip this thing over and just see what we can find. Hopefully 4-bolt main and the stroker kit's in here and it looks good. Let me get this thing stripped down and let's find out what we got. The engine is broken down, and it's not all the way down. I still got the pistons and the crank in. I kind of wanted to show you guys a few things. I did find a few good surprises and some bad surprises I'm gonna show you really quick. It's actually been about 2 weeks since that last clip you've seen. Hunting season kind of snuck up on me. I've been in the woods climbing trees and chasing whitetail for the past 2 weeks and kind of sporadically coming out here and tearing this thing apart. I have media blasted a lot of stuff. There is a lot of stuff I'm gonna be able to save. And I've been on the fence for the past couple of weeks on what to do about the engine block. I'll show you what I mean in just a minute, but I was gonna send it to the machine shop and get it surfaced and honed and everything, but I'm not sure now. I'm gonna try something before I do that route because I do wanna keep this as budget as possible. So let me show you where I'm at, the surprises I found and the not so good surprises that I found. So starting with the block here, I did find some good surprises on the block. Now, as I suspected, it had been built and bored over. These pistons are 30 over. And the cylinder walls don't look horrible. There is a small lip at the top, you know, as expected, but it's not bad. I can't catch my fingernail on it. So I'm gonna try to hone these out and, you know, mic them and see how they look. There's only one that I'm kind of concerned about, and it's this one right here. Let's see if I can show you guys. That little bit of area right there, it don't feel bad. It just looks kind of funny, but there was a little bit of water sitting in this cylinder at the top from it sitting out in the woods and water coming in the carburetor. And there was just a little bit of surface rust right there. So hopefully when I hone it out, it's gonna be good. One of the good surprises I found on this block was right back here. I found an actual date code on the back of the block. And when I looked that date code up, I wrote it on my board over here. The date code on the block is K108, and 108, when you know, decode that on the internet, K was November the 10th of 1978, which is good because when I looked up the date code on the actual truck, it was built December of 78, which tells me that this is the factory block out of my truck, which is good. Also, you can't tell from this angle, well, you might be able to, it is a 4-bolt main, which I was really hoping for. So we got a really good block here, guys. I really hope it cleans up. I'm wanting to save a little bit of money and not send it to the machine shop. So hopefully these cylinders clean up today. I just got back from Harbor Freight and I just got me a little hone tool. I'm just gonna lightly do it and see if it cleans up good the way I like it. If it does, we'll be good to go, and I'm not even gonna mess with that. Now, here's where some of the bad stuff comes into play. First of all, the heads. The heads are not the factory heads on the motor. They actually have a date code on them, and these are actually off of a 69 Camaro. So, which is, it's pretty normal. What happened was this motor probably ran hot and they bored it over 30 and put some different heads on it back in the day, which is completely normal and completely fine. But one of the bad things I found was this guy right here. My cam, and I've got it cleaned up. I was hoping to be able to show you guys. The cam has got some wiping on it. And what that means is, here's one of my lifters. This is a good lifter. And if you can see, it's nice and smooth on the top. It's a hydraulic lifter. But if you compare it to some of these other lifters, here's my worst one, I believe. Look at that. It's almost like a bowl in there. And that is a bad lifter. And there's a lot of bad lifters. If you kind of look it through these right on the top, you see the cup on the top of all of those. Some of them are really bad, some of them are not as bad, but they're all, I mean, they're all bad. I think the only two that were flat, I put back here in the back, and even, I don't even think that one's completely flat. There's still a circle showing. What happens is these are supposed to, these rotate as the rods go up and down. And speaking of rods, I've also got a couple of bad rods here. I'll show you the tip. Look at that one right there, and that one right there. So I did have some bad rods, but I think it's all the damage is kind of located on the cam, the rods and the lifters. So I'm gonna do a cam kit in this, clean the head up. All my valves look good. There was nothing really stuck or broken or burnt. I am gonna disassemble them, clean them, lap them if I need to, and then put them back together before I, you know, paint and assemble the motor. But as you can tell, I did media blast a lot of stuff, and here's that Edelbrock intake, and it looks brand new. I mean, completely brand new. It cleaned up really good. I got all that yellow paint off, all the gunk off, and we should be able to use this. That's gonna save me 200 bucks right there. All of the other stuff cleaned up really good. There's no significant damage to anything. This is just mainly my pulleys and brackets and stuff like that. Timing chain looked good, the gear looked good. I'm gonna attempt to overhaul the carburetor, but it did sit out for a long time, so I may end up just buying a new one. If I don't end up having to send the block and the heads to the machine shop, I'll use the money to buy a carburetor. But if I do have to send it, I might just try to rebuild that carburetor. But my goal today is I want to pull these pistons out. I did pick me up a stamp kit from Harbor Freight, one of these little punch stamps, so that I can number my pistons. If I'm just gonna re-ring it, I'm gonna reuse these pistons, which the pistons don't look bad. I'm gonna clean them up and see how they look once we get them out. But I wanna stamp and number each of my pistons so when I pull them all out, I can put them back if I'm gonna reuse them. And I'm really hoping these cylinder walls clean up good. They're not horrible. I don't see any cross hatching left, but the walls don't have any vertical scratches or anything like that. You've probably heard me mention once or twice stroker kit when I was talking about this motor. And the reason is when I bought this truck, I was dealing with the owner and the guy he had listing it on Facebook. And the guy he had listing it mentioned to me, he thought there was a stroker kit in here. I don't think the owner ever mentioned it to me. I don't think he ever said anything about stroker kit, but I was kind of hoping that that's what we would find in here, and it's not. It's got a factory Chevy crank in it, which is just fine. The only thing that was really done to this motor was the 30 over. It has the Camaro heads on it. I think the camshaft, that's just a factory camshaft, and a bunch of Edelbrock stuff on it. So, which is completely fine, especially if these cylinders clean up. It looks like whoever did, rebuild this motor, they did a good job. The head gaskets look great when I pulled them off. So hopefully all of this cleans up and then we can roll from there. The reason I wanted to go ahead and do this motor part before we started on the truck, if I do have to send this to the machine shop, it usually takes a couple of months to get the block and the heads back. And I didn't want to just be sitting around waiting. So what we can do is get this motor ready to go, order the overhaul kit, set it to the side, and then I can start on the frame. I've got the Rough Country suspension lift already here. We'll get this frame ready to go. And once the motor is built, we get it finished, I'll hook it to the transmission with a new clutch. We'll set it on the frame and get it running, idling and everything right here without the cab on it. And then we can move to the cab and the body where all the fun stuff comes after this. I just got to get past this not so fun stuff first. So let me tear this thing down. Hopefully I can get these cylinders cleaned up and I'll show you what we got. All right, so I've got the pistons out, I've got the crank out, and I've done a little bit of honing already with just a little cheap Harbor Freight hone that I showed you guys. I've done these 4 cylinders, but I think I'm gonna stop. I think I am gonna send this to the machine shop and go ahead and spend the money to get it done right. I'm worried that if I just kind of do a cheap build on this, that I'll end up having to pull this motor out in the future, and I really don't want to do that. But I want to show you the cross hatching looks good that I was able to do with that little cheap hone, but there's still some vertical lines that I'm not happy with. The crank and the pistons, they all look good. There were a couple of bearings that had a little bit of wear, but they weren't bad. All the bearings I pulled off the crank and the piston rods, they all look good. So I want to show you the difference in just what I've done on these 4 with the hone, the little hone tool from Harbor Freight, and the other side, which I haven't touched yet, and I'm just gonna leave it alone. After I seen the vertical lines, I decided it's really not worth it. I'm gonna go ahead and have this done professionally. That way, if it needs to be taken over, it's already 30 over. I think you can only go to like 40 on these, I think. I don't really know, but I don't think I can go much further. So I'm gonna send it on to them, see what they think, and hopefully, when they can take care of it, within the next month or so, we can get it back, get this thing built up to where we know it's bulletproof, and then we can start to work on the truck stuff. I've got an absolute mess going in the shop, but I wanted to show you guys what I was able to do. Hopefully I can get some good lighting. But you see, I was able to do some pretty good cross hatching in there, but you can see the lines. There's a couple of lines that go around it, and then I've got some vertical lines. Maybe you guys can see them down there in the bottom of that cylinder, and it's the same way on all 4 of these cylinders. They're not bad. I can't feel them with my fingernail, but I can see them, and that's what worries me. The pistons come out just fine. Usually that top lip, if there's a high mileage on the motor, that it'll be really hard to get your pistons out. That top lip wasn't too bad, and the cross hatching looked good. Now, if I was just trying to throw this together really quick to have a running, driving truck to get me by, I would put pistons in this after I honed it a little bit more and been just fine with it. Here's the side over here that I haven't done yet, and they just look nice and smooth. There's no cross hatching left in these cylinders at all though. So the rebuild will help, not to mention when they do the build, they'll change all my freeze plugs for me. I don't have to do that, and they'll install cam bearings too. So it'll be worth it, I think. Let me show you the pistons. I've got everything kind of laid out. The front of the motor's over there, so it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8. And my only real bad bearings were right here. Was it 2, 4, 6, number 6 cylinder? And you can see that there is a little bit of wear on that bearing, but there's no copper showing, so they're not completely worn out. But there was definitely some grooves. I can feel that one. But the rest of them looked pretty good. There's no wear. Everything seems nice and smooth. The pistons seem good. I will polish up the cam a little bit. They'll probably do it for me because I'm going to send them the cam. I mean, not the cam, the crank with the motor. That way they can set everything up. But yeah, I hate to do it, but it's worth it in the end to spend the money because they'll also tear down my heads and rework the heads and lap the valves and do everything that, you know, I was going to do. I'll just pay them to do it, and while they're working on this, we can focus on the truck. So I'm gonna clean my mess up, go ahead and put the block with the heads and the crank in a box, get it in the truck so I can drop it off at the machine shop first thing in the morning. And then we're gonna focus on the truck. We'll set the motor to the side. I just really wanted to knock this out. I know this is probably a super short video. If you are following along with this build, I do appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. It'll help me out, help, you know, kind of spread the word on this build. They're all not going to be this short, I promise. We're going to focus on the frame while the motor's going to the machine shop, get it taken care of. Hopefully this thing will be back to us within a month, month and a half. He does a lot of work, and it's one guy, I think, that does it out there, but he's really good. He did my Nissan for me last year when I rebuilt the motor on it. Hopefully I can get this back pretty quick, and we can get this motor all dolled up and stuck on here, get it fired up, then we can focus on the body. I would love to have this truck finish this time next year and have it, you know, some local shows and stuff like that. I think it'd be pretty cool. But y'all follow along. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you're new here, I upload videos every Monday at 6 p.m. They're not all engine builds and stuff like this. It's mostly boats and kayaks and stuff like that. And for those of you that are still watching, my subscribers, I've got a really cool new boat coming. It's brand new. It's going to be really neat. We're going to get it in. I think it's already shipped out, so it should be here this week. So y'all stay tuned for that video. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you guys next Monday at 6 p.m. Peace.